What is happening, everybody? John Mullery here. You are very, very welcome to another show of more sales every single day like clockwork. We have I'm really excited about tonight's show. I mean, it's going to be a lot to beat last week. We had with Todd having Todd live to answer questions live and everything else, and we had so much fun last week. So if you missed last week's show by for some reason, you can get the recording on our page here as well. But this week, I'm really pulling out all the stops this week to try our best to beat last week's show, and it's an exciting time right now for all of us here at MFA. We're getting ready for our Top 1 Mastermind next week, and we have our Top 1 members, and they are receiving their Top 1 packages, which is fantastic as well. I actually got mine in the mail just there about an hour ago. It's fantastic to see, and unreal stuff inside. But aside from that, we have a lot to share with you tonight. Today we're going to be talking all about acquisition aggression and the 3 methods of acquisition aggression, or the three levels of acquisition aggression rather, and how each of them differ depending on the type of business you are, or how you might think that they differ depending on the type of businesses you are, and how you can actually use acquisition aggression when done right to really essentially outspend your competitors and outmarket your competitors, and really drive home as many clients, as many customers, as many profits on demand as you want. And we're going to have Todd walk you through some of the different levels tonight, and then we've got a little bit of a goodie for you if you want to actually get the actual whole thing. I'm going to be sharing how you can do that as well. So let me know first of all where we are coming from. So we have Emilio, we have Dave as usual. Dave is our champion here, Investor AF, absolutely. Last week was crazy. We have Jason Burke from North Tampa, Florida, and we have from one Irishman to another, shenanigans, absolute shenanigans indeed. So, if you're just joining me, let me know in the comments where you are coming from and who you serve, what you do, who you serve, and maybe if you're running into a couple of problems, a couple of challenges right now in your marketing in terms of getting your business out there, getting your offers out there, getting your offers to convert, getting your funnels to scale, and so on and so forth. We'll be able to cover them after our main training. We're going to have a Q&A where we'll be diving into the Q&A specific to acquisition aggression. But if there are any other questions as well related to anything got to do with scaling your campaigns, scaling your offers, and essentially allowing you to reach more people, to help more people, to add more value and extract more profits and make more sales, and help a lot more people every single day, well, then we can cover those as well. So with all that being said, acquisition aggression is the name of the game today, and I cannot wait to get going and cannot wait to share this with you. I'm just looking at the intro there. My hair was crazy long when we did the show reel for that intro. I mean, and I don't think I'll be getting a haircut now for a while again, because I don't know if people are aware, but in Ireland we are on lockdown like crazy. We cannot leave for the next 6 weeks. We cannot go outside a 5-kilometer radius of where we live. It's crazy bad here, and our government are really clamping down and trying to control things, and rightfully or wrongly. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics and everything else and that, but it's we're on lockdown here in Ireland, so it is. Luckily, I got my haircut recently, so because the last time it was months and months and months before I got a chance to get my haircut. But anyways, my name is John Murray. I'm the Director of Marketing for Todd Brown, and you are very, very welcome to another episode of More Sales Every Single Day Like Clockwork. And in today's show, we are talking specifically about acquisition aggression, the different levels of acquisition aggression, what it is, what it means, and how you can tap into those different levels depending on where you are in your business. And we'll also share a recommendation depending where you are in your business, and what Todd recommends as a first and foremost level of acquisition aggression for everybody that he begins to work with in the E5 Acquisition Accelerator, and so on and so forth. But for now, what I want to share with you is just a preempt going into acquisition aggression, is that there was something that I learned, and actually learned from Todd's mentor, or one of Todd's old business partners and friends, Rich Sheffrin. And this was like years and years ago. I learned this from Rich. It was the idea that he who spends the most wins. And oftentimes you see people, and I think a couple of people have posted on the MFA Nation as well, is that people sometimes perceive lower cost per clicks, lower, getting like penny clicks and so on and so forth, and getting leads for minuscule amount as winning the game of marketing. Well, yes, it's winning. It's a certain element of that. You may be doing well, and you may be getting your clicks for really, really low cost. You may be getting leads low cost, but that's just one side of the coin. We have to look at what happens on the other side. So, okay, we spent X amount to get a lead. We spent X amount to get a click, get a visitor to our website. But what happens after that? So there's always both sides of the coin. But on top of that, in terms of acquisition aggression, what I want you to be mindful of before we go into the training with Todd, specifically on acquisition aggression, is that it's not always about getting the cheapest result possible. It's about getting the best result possible. And sometimes the best result possible involves paying that much more to get a lead, being able to pay more to get a lead, being able to pay more to get a customer, to acquire a customer, to acquire a client. Because when you're able to pay more, when you're able to spend more money to acquire a customer, to acquire a client, to acquire a lead, then your competitors are able to, well, then the game is completely changed, as you're about to see. So I don't want to say any more. I'm going to let Todd take it away, and we're going to dive into what acquisition aggression is, the different levels, and how you can start applying it to your business so you can start outspending, outmarketing, and delivering more value and having a more impact on your business and to the clients that you serve than you have ever dreamed possible.
Let's talk about acquisition aggression. Acquisition aggression is this. It's how aggressive are you with what you're willing to invest to get a single customer. See, let me explain. So if you run you spend $1,000 on a marketing campaign. This could be whether you're a mom and pop with a brick and mortar business, whether you're an online marketer, it does not matter. Or a marketer that primarily is online. And you invest $1,000, right? And you sell a product for $100, right? You sell a product for $100. $1,000 on advertising, and you sell a product for $100. Would you be okay if you generated 1 customer? Would you be okay if you generated 2 customers? Would you be okay if you generated 3 customers? See, we know that if you generated 10 customers at $100 each, that's $1,000. If you spent $1,000 and you got $1,000 back plus 10 customers and leads, your bank account is no worse off than it was the day before. Right, we certainly know that the typical mom and pop would say, hey, if I invest $1,000, I need at least 20 customers. 20 at $100 each, $2,000. I double my ad spend. Everything is great. Everybody would do that, right? Everybody. But how aggressive are you willing to be with what it is that you are willing to invest to get a single customer? See, if you spend $1,000 or invest $1,000 and you acquire 2 customers, how much did it cost you to acquire a single customer? $500. You invest $1,000 in traffic. And let's keep it simple. In Facebook, in Google AdWords, on an email solo, doesn't matter. You invested $1,000 and you got 2 customers. So those customers cost you $500, right? That's your cost per acquisition. As a side note, most marketers don't even know what their cost per acquisition is. They have no idea what it actually costs them to acquire a customer. Yet, it's one of the most important numbers for you to know. It's one of the most important numbers for you to know. What does it cost you to acquire a customer? Well, so if you spent $1,000 and you acquired 2 customers, meaning that your cost of acquisition is $500, is that good? Meaning, like, for you. The answer is different for everybody. Is that good? Right? Is it okay? Is it too aggressive? Are you spending too much money? Are you not spending enough? Could you spend more? Should you spend less? See, the biggest mistake that I made, that one thing that if I could do it differently, I would, knowing what I know today, is this. I would have been much more aggressive with what it is that I was willing to invest to get a customer. One of the biggest mistakes that I see marketers and entrepreneurs, business owners make that stifles their growth, that holds them back, that slows down their growth, is they're just not willing to be aggressive enough. They're not willing to invest enough, right? They should be investing more to get a customer. Certainly, the mom and pops, like, look, the mom and pops that are trying to generate a profit on every dollar that they, right? They're leaving money on, they're leaving customers on the table. They're leaving back-end dollars on the table. How aggressive are you willing to be? The overwhelming majority of marketers and entrepreneurs that come into the MFA tribe, they are nowhere near as aggressive as they should be. And oftentimes, without changing anything else, just by adjusting their acquisition aggression level to where it should be, their growth speeds up rapidly. And so let's talk about the 3 different levels of acquisition aggression and how to understand where you should be and then what to look at to leverage those levels, that level. So the first level is what I call the mom and pop. And for those of you that have been through the E5 Camp Masterclass, how many of you have been through the E5 Camp Masterclass? So, rockin' program, am I right? Thank you for that. So you've heard me talk about this before, that mom and pop is this. Mom and pop is the way the typical entrepreneur operates. If you've got any friends that are entrepreneurs with a retail store or something like that, or some other store or restaurant or whatnot, you know, the mom and pop is, they're looking for a profit margin on every transaction. Maybe they, out of every dollar they spend, right, or out of every dollar they make, they need a 50% margin. They're looking for profit on every transaction. They're very transactional they have a transactional mindset. They're transactional focused, if you will, meaning that for them, there is no back end, front end. They don't care whether an individual has purchased 1 time from them, 10 times from them. This is the first time, this is the 12th time. For them, the objective of that transaction is all the same, to generate profit, right? So they have this number in mind for every dollar that they invest, how much money they need to make back. They have a number in mind for every dollar that they invest into traffic, into advertising, into marketing, that they have to make a certain amount of money back. And that's what they focus on. And so if a customer is worth, let's say, $100, let's keep it real simple. If a customer is worth $100, meaning the average customer in their business, in Bob's business, spends $100 the first time they become a customer, right? Just the average customer. If you look at the average customer spends $100. Well, because Bob is operating at level 1 with the typical mom and pop mindset, Bob's not willing to spend any more than $50 to get that customer, right? He's only willing to spend $50 to get that new customer. Because if that customer spends $100, that means, okay, he maintains his margin. You see that? Does that make sense so far? Yes? Right? Straightforward. But what Bob is doing is Bob is holding himself back from acquiring more customers, because the individual at level 2 is what we call break even. Level 2 is where I recommend, at a bare minimum, every single one of you in this room operate at. This is the very first, or one of the very first things that I do with clients and students, is get them operating at break even. What's break even? Break even is just recouping what it is that you invest in traffic, right? If you spend $100 on Facebook ads, the goal is at this level to just recoup $100. Meaning this, meaning that if a customer is worth $100, just like Bob, right? We've got Bob. Now we're talking about Steve, right? And Steve, same thing. Steve has a very similar business to Bob. It's virtually identical. They're competitors. Bob, right, his average customer is worth $100, and he's operating at level 1, so he's only willing to spend $50 to get a customer, because he needs that margin, because it's all transactional based for him, right? But then you've got Steve, who is operating at level 2. Steve also has a $100 per customer value. But Steve doesn't care about generating profit on the front. Steve is a savvy direct response marketer. Steve understands that the front end is just about customer acquisition and the back end is where all of his profit comes from. And so Steve is willing to spend $100 to get a customer. Steve's willing to spend $100 to get a single customer that is worth $100 today. No profit, but also no expense. I want you to think about something for 1 second. If you spend $100 or invest $100, and it's not an expense, it's an invest. If you invest $100 and you get a single customer that is worth $100 to you, your bank account is no less today than it was 2 days ago. But now you have a customer that's going to go into your back end that you're going to put through this back end process, right? In essence, not even in essence, you're building your business for free. You are building your business for free. Imagine, right? Like, in other words, you put in 100, you get back 100, your bank account is the same, but now you've got a customer. And in our case, if we're using two-step marketing, you also have leads. So you have a new customer, you've got leads, and your bank account is no less than it was 2 days ago. Not too shabby. That's just shifting from that mom and pop, that transactional mindset to I'm okay making no money on the front because I know the profit in this business is on the back. Therefore, I am just willing to recoup my money. That one change alone for many of you, if you change the way you operate, if you change the way you think about it, if you change the way you invest in your acquisition, that one change alone will be a game changer. See, because over here, Bob can only spend $50 to get a customer, but Steve can spend $100. Steve can spend double what Bob can to get a customer. Do you think Steve's going to win? All else being equal. Steve can do a lot more to get a customer. Steve can do direct mail. Steve can send a surprise in the mail. Steve can use channels that Bob can't, right? Because, right, even if their conversion rate was the same, even if everything else was the same, just by the sheer fact that Steve can invest more. In this example, Steve can invest double because he knows that the big money in this business is the back end. Now, you've got to understand what you've really got to think about is this. Think about it this way. Really start to think about it this way, please. The front end is just the machine to put people in the back end. The front end is just the machine to put people in the back end. And the back end, the second transaction, the third transaction, the fourth transaction, the fifth transaction, that's where the money is made. That's where the business is. This is just a vehicle to put people back here. So the question that I would say to you is this, to really put things in perspective, right? Like, how many people do you want to dump into the back? The answer, into the back end. How many people do you want this machine to put into the back end? The answer is the maximum number. Right? You're not looking to generate profit. That's not the goal of this machine. That's not the goal of the front end. It's to put maximum people in the back end and let your back end do its thing. And understand this, that on the back end, right, if you're at break even, if you're operating at break even, the back end is profit because all of your expenses to acquire a customer were handled on the front. Right? If I spend $100 to get a customer, right, and that customer invests $100 with me, right, I took care of my customer acquisition expense, and now when I sell them the next thing, I don't have that same customer acquisition expense anymore, right? I handled it already. I paid to acquire that customer. That customer is acquired. This is why it's all profit. It's all the second transaction, the third transaction, the fourth transaction, the fifth transaction. That's the business we are in. So how do you operate at level 2? You operate at level 2 by recognizing that it's all about, and look, every single one of you in here can operate at level 2. There is no risk. You don't need to be a financial wizard at level 2. Level 2 is all about $1 out, $1 in. right? We keep things super simple at MFA and super simple for our clients and students, right? And I want you to do the same. Dollar out, dollar in. If I invest $100, and I'm looking to get $100 back. If I invest $1,000, I'm looking to get $1,000 back. If I invest 100 grand a month in traffic, we're looking to get that 100 grand back. That's when you're operating at break even. So what's the number that you are looking at? What's the maximum amount of money that you can then spend to get a customer? How much, what's the maximum, how do you determine that? How do you understand what's the maximum amount that you can invest to acquire a customer? Well, it's simple. The number that you use is what we refer to as average front-end cart value. Sometimes we call it average front-end transaction value. Sometimes it's called average order value. I should come up with a cooler name and try to trademark it or something. But it's all the same nonsense. What it is this. It's what's the average amount of money that a new customer spends with you. So you've generated $100,000 last month, and you acquired 5,000 customers, right? And so you acquired 5,000 customers, and so what is that? That means the average cart value is $200, right? Is that right? Did I do the math right? It's terrible since we're doing a math presentation here, basically, and I'm just. But the point being, you generated X amount of money, divide it by the total number of new customers that produce that money, and that gives you the average cart value. Look, you could drill deep, you could go deep, and you could look at every campaign, and you could look at each different channel, and you could look at each different ad. I don't recommend you do that right now. There's a time and a place for that. For right now, start with understanding what is the average new customer worth to you. And when I say worth to you, I mean day zero. Day zero is the day that they buy. They buy on day zero. What is that new customer worth to you? Meaning, what's the average new customer? Some customers, in that example with the $200, some customers might spend $300. They might spend $350. They might spend $400. Some might spend $100. Some might buy different add-on offers, different cross-sells, right, immediately upon checkout. So some might spend $100. Some might spend $500, $600, right? But when we average it together, if we look and we see that it's $200 on average, that's the number we're using. That's average front-end cart value. That's the average amount of money that a customer spends with you on day zero. That number is the number that you use to determine your maximum allowable acquisition cost. That's the number that you can spend to acquire a customer. If you spend more than that, you lose money immediately every time you get a customer. Right? Do you understand that? If the average customer spends $200 with you on day zero, some more, some less, average $200. If the average customer spends $200 with you, right, that means that day zero, you can afford to spend $200 to get a customer. Period. That's the most amount of money that you can afford to spend. And you should. Don't try to spend 100. Don't try to spend 50. And here's a subtle shift that I want you to write down. I don't try to invest less. I try to figure out how I can invest more. I try to figure out, and you're going to see this in just a second, I'm going to explain how you can do this. I try to figure out, how can I spend more? How can I go, if right now we can afford to spend $200 to get a customer, the competitive edge is you figuring out how can you spend $220, $230, $240, $250, $300, all else being equal, right? He or she who can spend the most, does invest the most to acquire a customer, will win the game. The idea of, hey man, we're rocking the house, we've got a great funnel, right? And it's rocking at 7-cent clicks. That's not that impressive. And they're vulnerable because when those clicks are no longer 7 cents and they shoot up, will they still be able to use that campaign? Or when a competitor comes along and says, we're willing to spend 15 cents, and they start to bid up the cost per click, and then that marketer, that entrepreneur, can no longer use that campaign. See, the aim is not to invest the least, the aim is to invest the most. Even at break even, listen to me, even at break even, regardless of what it is that I spend to acquire a customer, right, I'm no worse off than I was the day before. If I can afford to spend $200 today to acquire a customer because my average customer is worth $200 to me, well, right? my bank account is no worse off than it was 2 days ago. If I increase what the average customer is worth to me on day 0 from 200 to 250, and now I spend or invest 250 to get a new customer, right? Now I have a competitive edge in the marketplace while everybody else can only spend 200 or can only spend 150 or can only spend 100, and still, even at 250, my bank account is no lower than it was 2 days ago, except now I have a customer, and I have a competitive edge because I can outspend everybody else. Right? If people in your marketplace can only spend $100 to acquire a customer, or are only willing to invest $100 to acquire a customer, and you're willing to invest $500 to acquire a customer, it's game over. It's game over. Done.
So this shift in perspective that Todd's talking about, and I'll get to the goodies and how you can actually get like that was just a snippet of that whole presentation. And if you would like the presentation in full, I'll share how you can actually get that whole thing in a second. But what I want to talk about first, before we dive into any, there was questions, and I know there was a couple of questions in there, but there's a couple of points I want to make first. Is that this shift in perspective, this shift in thinking of how you think about acquiring customers, isn't something to take lightly. I mean, this is huge. When you get this, and when you actually start to realize that this is where the true power of marketing comes in. This is where the true power of going out there and acquiring customers on the front end, because you know the money is made in the back end, and being willing to go out there and essentially like Todd said, you're growing your business, you're acquiring customers, you're acquiring clients for free. You're no worse off than you were the day before, and that's what level 2 is. Now obviously there's another level, and there's a whole other dynamic to this training, and there's a whole other section to this training where Todd explains what level 3 is. And then what he does is he actually brings it together and shares a framework that you can use to start scaling your business and start scaling your offers and your funnels in a way that just works like crazy. And if you would like access to that full training, all you have to do, you don't have to do anything crazy, you don't have to jump through any crazy hoops. We have our private Facebook community called the MFA Nation. And inside that MFA Nation, if you're not a member already, with someone who's watching who is a member, kindly post the link to the group and stick it into the comments. Inside that MFA Nation group, you can request access, you can request to join, and one of the announcements from Todd is detailing how you can get access to this presentation in full, plus a whole lot of more and extra goodies as well. Thank you so much, David. I knew you would be the guy to post it in there because you're such a champion. So thanks so much. So there's a link that David just posted in the comments. It's www.facebook.com/ I should know this by heart by now. I type it into my own browser so much. So it's facebook.com/groups/MFA Nation. And in there you're going to get access. You'll find out how you can get access to that full presentation. There's a whole lot more that Todd talks about. He walks you through what actually level 3 is. And level 3 is the game-changing level. You want to know what level 3 is, and you want to know how to get to level 3. But before you get to level 2, you have to be, or before you get to level 3, you have to be at level 2. So thanks again for posting that, David. Yeah, so in terms of like thinking about this, in terms of actually being okay with spending, if your average order value on day 0, like Todd talked about. So day 0 is the day that they buy. Whether they take just your front end offer and your bump or a couple of upsells, that's still all day 0 revenue. That's day 0 value. So if it's $100 and you spent $100 to get that client, to get that customer, then you are no worse off than you were the day before, but you are better off because now you have a customer, now you have a client, and you can add more value to them in the back end with your back end offers, whether it's your coaching program, whether it's your consulting, your done for you consulting, or your done for you offers, or whatever the case is. Maybe it's just other products or services that you offer in the back end. Maybe if you're offering a continuity, your day 0 is the initial month that they pay. But if your stick rate, if your average stick rate is, say, on average 6 months, you could be getting 5 months of extra revenue for all free, and that's all your back end revenue. So good man, Tan, you're very, very welcome. So this is game changing stuff when you actually think about it, when you actually apply it. And like Todd mentioned, it is just simple math. I mean, when you work this out, and how you can actually get started with this is first and foremost knowing how much you're currently paying to acquire a customer, to acquire a client right now, and then looking at that number and seeing where it is on the level of how much you're willing to spend to acquire a customer, to acquire a client. So say, for example, you are selling a coaching program in your main back end offer is a coaching program for say $10,000, and you're willing to spend X amount to get a client for that. Now you have a couple of different options. You could build an E5 campaign that's geared around getting strategy sessions and getting people on the phone and getting closers to close them over the phone and so on and so forth. Or you could have a lower price or an entry level product or course or offer that kind of whets their appetite or that solves a specific problem that your niche has or your target market has, and gears them up and gets them ready for or gets them primed and sets them up and qualifies them for your back-end coaching program. So say for example that offer was a $100 mini training or mini masterclass on going from point A to point B, whatever that is for your target market, whatever burning or bleeding neck problem that they have that you can solve very, very quickly and very easily for them, but charge a premium price for it. So say for example that becomes your front-end offer and you build out an E5 campaign around that, and you develop an E5 campaign around that to acquire customers on the front end. So now you go out there and you start running ads, running traffic, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Google Display, whether it's email drops, whether it's carrier pigeon, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's direct mail, whatever it is. But you start running ads and start running traffic to your offer, and you see that you're converting. It costs on average, say, $50 for you to generate a buyer worth $100. So you're making profit on the front end, and that's fantastic. And that's what a lot of people see as what their holy grail is too. And I know a lot of marketers in the internet marketing space that are in they're on the constant launch wheel and they do different things, and they when they start to make profit in their launches and when they start to run paid ads to their launches and they start to generate a little bit of profit on the front end, they get really, really excited saying, oh, I've got an amazing funnel, I'm going to scale this like crazy, and they keep ticking over with a nice level of new buyers every single day, but they're still focusing on generating profit on the front end. And like Todd mentioned, this is a big opportunity for them and for you if you're in the same boat to really put the gas down even further and not worry about making profit on the front end. And like Todd said, if he was to go back and do it all over again, this was something that he would have done, or he would have recognized and would have implemented and acted upon a hell of a lot sooner, being a lot more aggressive in what he's willing to spend and what he's willing to invest to acquire a client or customer. So going back to the example of you have a $100 front end offer and you're currently spending up to $50 to acquire a customer. What you could do is you could get a little bit more aggressive, start to scale vertically, start to scale horizontally, start to test out new audiences, and if your CPA creeps up, which it will as you begin to scale, be okay having it creeping up as long as your volume is creeping up as well with the cost up to that $100 level. And then when you're willing to spend $100 to acquire that customer, that client on the front end, you're getting them enrolled, you're helping them solve that bleeding neck problem, which is going to build massive know-like trust with you. And then afterwards, by continuous adding value and giving them the opportunity to get your help, whether it's through a strategy session, whether it's through a discovery call, whether it's through whatever it is, you can bridge the gap and help them get to that next level, and which can only be done through your coaching program, and that's your 10K coaching program. And then any money that you make from your coaching program is profit, aside from any kind of costs or overheads that you have with running your coaching program. And this whole model, this whole method of acquisition aggression allows you to acquire customers on your front end, so then you can monetize those customers and those clients on the back end and add more value to them and solve more problems for them and give them more solutions. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing when it's in process. To give you a kind of a real world example of this, because I want to bring it back to real world examples. One of the bleeding neck problems that we solve with one of our front end offers is helping people get better conversions with their offer, or put together an offer that actually genuinely is presented in a way and engineered in a way that makes their market go crazy. And that is our offer bundle offer, and it ranges, the price can range, but typically we're talking about anywhere from a $60 to $100 price range, and that's a front end offer that we use currently. It's one of our front end offers. We have many here at MFA Nation, but it's one of them. and we're willing to spend a certain amount to acquire an offer bundle buyer, because we know that in the back end, a certain percentage of those buyers will go on to make a second purchase, make a third purchase, possibly request a strategy session, jump on one of our strategists, see the value that we can deliver with our E5 method, and see the value of actually getting someone like Todd's help over a period of 8 to 10 weeks. And then they will be willing to invest in something like the E5 Acquisition Accelerator if it makes sense for them and if it's suitable for where they are in their business right now. And that example there, where say for example we spent $100 to acquire a customer for an offer bundle, and our average order value on day 0 was $100. Again, we're acquiring clients and customers for free, and then in the back end we can monetize them, because we know on average how much a customer or client is worth to us over 30 days, over 60 days, over 90 days, over 180 days. And when you start to recognize these numbers, and when you start to plug these numbers into your business, and tracking these doesn't have to be super complicated. Yes, there's solutions out there to help you track your stats and your data and your metrics and everything else, but you can keep it super simple at the beginning, like Todd mentioned. But it gives you so much freedom, because you're no longer under the illusion or under the mentality that you need to try and get your clicks as low as possible. Try and get cost per clicks for 10 cents, for 20 cents. Try and get leads for $1, $2, $3. Those leads are fantastic if you can get them that low, but don't let that be the goal of your marketing funnels and to be the goals of your marketing campaigns, that you're getting leads for super low. Be willing to spend what you have to spend, what is necessary for you to spend, and maybe a little bit more if you're capable of doing that, to acquire a lead, to acquire a customer, to acquire a client on your front end, so you can monetize them and add more value to them in the back end. So if we have any specific questions on that, I know David had one specific question on, I'll just call it out again. I'm actually going to add it to here. So what's the best way to dial in cold Facebook audiences? So David, I'll give you my interpretation of this. There's lots of different ways that you can do this. I'll share a couple of examples of how we do it, and it may be useful to take that on board, and hopefully it will be useful for you. So say for example, like first we have to kind of define what a cold audience is. I mean, like, is a cold Facebook audience someone that has never ever heard of you? And that's fine. So, and it really depends on what you're going to be offering them in the first place. I mean, if you're offering them a lead magnet on the front, like to generate a lead, it's a lot easier to dial in a cold Facebook audience than trying to offer a cold Facebook audience a $10,000 program right up front, with no education, with no value up front, with no other offer in place up front, whether that's a lead magnet, whether that's a webinar, whether that's a front-end offer. It really depends on what you're doing and what you mean by dialing them in. So say for example, I'm going to assume, unless you tell me otherwise in the comments, that you have a front-end offer that you would like to dial into Facebook audiences. Okay, so you're doing an E5 campaign to a $70 a month membership. And so you're going straight into sign up for the $70 membership, is that right? And so it's basically, so your front-end offer is to sign up for a continuity program. Now you may find that testing out your Facebook audiences that it costs you a certain amount to acquire a customer. So how much does it cost you right now to acquire a customer? So say for example, after the education. So how much on average is it costing you now to acquire that customer? And when it comes to dialing into Facebook audiences, this is where we can get key. But some of the things you may do, so let's just keep it simple for the minute, that if you're willing to, if you're looking to expand your Facebook audiences or reach more colder audiences, the first thing we need to look at is how your campaign is structured. Is it structured to allow you to reach more cold audiences and allow you to scale both vertically and horizontally in a way that's not going to affect your metrics, in a way that's going to allow you to consistently generate results, and in a way that allows you to reach the right people at the right time? So say for example, one way that we structure our audiences when we're doing Facebook campaigns to cold audiences is that we would always start with ad set budget optimization in the beginning. Because the reason why we want to start with ad set budget optimization instead of campaign budget optimization is because at the beginning we may not know which one of our ads are going to work, which one of our interests are going to work, and which one of our targeting options are going to work. So say for example, we start off with, say, 5 ad sets in a campaign, and we're doing ad set budget optimization, and we might have a certain budget for each ad set, and that budget is going to be depending on your spending threshold, and it's also going to be depending on how much you're willing to spend to acquire that customer. That's why it's so important to know the answer to that. But say, for argument's sake, we're willing to spend in this ad campaign, say, $50 a day per ad set. So we're going to be spending $250 for that campaign every single day, because we're doing $50 a day and we're doing 5 ad sets in our campaign. So now within that ad set, we will be targeting specific interests, whether they're lookalike audiences, whether they're or specific audiences, whether they're lookalike audiences, whether they're specific interest categories related to our niche, related to our offer, related to our industry. And then each ad set is going to be made up of a certain audience size. So say, for example, when we're testing, we like to have an audience size of about 500,000 to about 3 million. And the reason why we want that big is it allows us enough of a testing parameter to reach enough people from a testing point of view. And then afterwards, once we find audiences, or once we find ad sets that are winning and ads within our ad set, which I'll talk about in a second, then we look to switch that campaign. Once we have a winning ad set and some winning creatives, we're going to switch that to a campaign budget optimization that then we can start to scale to more cold audiences, and so on and so forth. So far, is this valuable, David? Let me know in the comments. And then, so once we have our 5 ad sets with 5 different types of audiences, and then we're going to start testing different creatives. So there's a lot of different ways you can test creatives. I like to test a combination of both image and video, because it's always best to test both. And then different types of copy, both long copy and short copy. But typically you want to, say, have 6 ads in your ad set, and maybe testing 2 image video creatives, so maybe 1 image, 1 video, and then 3 copy variations. So you end up with 6 ads in your ad set, and each of those 6 ads will be the same for all of your different 5 ad sets. And maybe what we'll do next week is actually bring you through an example of what this looks like from a structuring point of view. So far, yes, but dialing in the audience is not the ad. Okay, so getting there. So we have our ad set with 6 ads, and we have 5 ad sets in our campaign. So just think of it like that way. Maybe next week what we'll do is we'll do an over-the-shoulder example of what this actually looks like in our live stream next week. But once you have your audiences in there, essentially what you're doing, you're going to start to group certain interests together. So say, for example, if you do have lookalike audiences, that will be 1 ad set. Then your next ad set might be, say, for example, your next ad set might be certain interest categories. So if there are certain gurus, or if there are certain experts in your area that are reachable through Facebook, you would group them together to get your audience size to that 500,000 to 3 million. Next, if there are certain magazines that you read that you can target on Facebook, so say, for example, like Success Magazine, like Forbes Magazine, or everything else, you might group them as another one. And then you would group, you'd have a 3rd one, you'd have a 4th one, and you'd have the 5th one. So you have 5 different ad sets with different audiences in there. And then by running an ad set budget optimization campaign, and running that campaign for, say, the first 7 days, Facebook, and it's a conversion campaign, so it's not a landing page view campaign, or a leads campaign, or a clicks campaign, clicks to website campaign. You're running a conversion campaign based on you wanting to get someone to convert on your front end offer. So that's the first thing that's going to do. So while you're running that for 7 days, Facebook's going to go out there, and it's going to go out there and try and find people who are likely to convert. And at the beginning, we don't know which one of those ad sets is going to work best. I might say, well, your lookalike audience is probably going to do best. You might say, well, I don't know, maybe the magazine's audience will do best. And then there might be another audience based on your market research that you've done in terms of where your audiences are hanging out, who they're listening to, who they're watching, and what they do on a daily basis, and how you can actually reach them. That's what we're going to be doing from our interest point of view. But whichever ad set is going to win, we don't really know. And again, from an ad point of view, we don't know which ad is going to convert best either. And that's why we test different ones. And then from there, once we have a base level of data from our 7 days, and we've given enough time for Facebook to go out there and find things, we're going to see that certain interests and certain audiences are going to be converting better than others. And then we're going to start to scale those slowly but surely. We don't want to go doubling our budget immediately, so we wouldn't go from 50 to 100. We might go 50 to 75 for a couple of days If it's still bringing in some conversions, we might go from 75 and upwards, and that's how we would begin to scale, and that's how we would expand our cold audiences. Now that's one method that we could use to do that. The second method that we could use is by turning those cold audiences into warm audiences. So how we could do that is think about the KLT factor, the know, like, trust factor. So we might push some valuable content, some EBM content that you can just extract from your main E5 campaign, splinter out certain elements that you could use as EBM content on a cold audience. So say it might be like a 2-3 minute clip, it might be a 2-minute video, it might be an article, it might be a blog post, it might be some sort of a freebie that they could get, and you would push that out to the cold audience without any expectation of return. Now, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to reach outside of our realm of possibility that people know us. We're going to try to push that barrier and start bringing people into that area just to get them a little bit interested in what we have to say. And then what we're looking for is we're looking for some sort of an engagement. So we were going to retarget on content. So we're looking for some sort of engagement in our campaign. If it's a video, we're looking for a certain percentage of watch view. So say, for example, we might look for someone who watched at least 50% of our video if it's like 2-3 minutes long or something like that. And then we would retarget them with something else. We could either retarget them straight away going into our sales page for our front-end offer, or we may retarget them with a second piece of content that builds even more know, like, and trust factor. And then on the third piece, then we may retarget them within our offer. Now, so it takes a little bit longer to set up, and the one thing I will stress with this, and it's something that we're constantly kind of battling with here inside MFA, is that it does take time for it to kick into gear. It does take time for you to warm up those cold audiences. It does take time for you, and you have to spend that much more. But the thing is, with video campaigns on Facebook, when you're running a views campaign to get views, you can get views really, really cheaply. Same on YouTube as well. So it's not just limited to Facebook, but you can get views relatively inexpensively, and then you're retargeting that audience with a second video, and then you're taking people who've watched that second video, and then you're retargeting them into your offer. And as long as and this is the big caveat, this is the big takeaway. And it doesn't have to be 50%. If it's like an hour-long video that you're presenting, getting someone to watch a 30-minute video on Facebook, or 30 minutes of a video on Facebook, where it might happen, it might be a little bit unrealistic. So if your video is like 2, 3, 4 minutes long, it might be 50% and upwards, 50%, 75%, 95% up. But anyways, the big caveat to all of this is that it has to be EBM content. It has to facilitate your prospects taking that next step. It has to facilitate them realizing, coming to the conclusion that they need you. They need your solution. They need your unique mechanism. So if you can whet their appetite with that, and in your E5 campaign, get them excited about your unique mechanism, then they can't just, like what we talked about before, they can't go away and that Google marketing Slack trigger, where if you're just like, the worst thing you could do is just advertise bland, boring blog post content. It has to be something that's going to facilitate them taking that next step in your sales process. So when you do put that offer in front of them, they're going to be like, wow, okay, yeah, this makes perfect sense. They shared a video from me before, walking me through X, Y, and Z, and why their unique method is fantastic and everything else. And now they're giving me an opportunity to get my hands on that unique method. Then it becomes a viable solution. A lot of people, and it's a mistake I've made myself in the past, is thinking, oh, all I have to do is warm up people with content. I'll just push any old content out there, and it's going to warm them up, so then I can offer them something else and it'll take it. But the reality is it doesn't work that way, and that's why Todd has engineered the E5 acquisition accelerator, the E5 campaign, and the whole E5 method in a way that from start to finish, you are building out a campaign that facilitates you converting cold audiences into warm audiences, into buyers, into clients, into customers. So yeah, the link, if anybody's interested, you can go to learnfromtodd.com, and I'll address the rest of your questions in a sec, David. But if anybody's interested in getting our help in building out a campaign that allows you to scale your offers, allows you to acquire clients and customers essentially for free or better, and allows you to monetize them in the back end, if that's something you're interested in, you can go to learnfromtodd.com and book a strategy session with one of our E5 strategists. They'll walk you through exactly what you need to do in your business to go from point A to point B. We know that while most businesses structurally and what they need are the same. Every business is different. Every business has different challenges, different needs. So we will customize your strategy session to you based on where you are and based on what you are looking to achieve. If you're at 5 figures a month and you're looking to get to 6, or if you're at 6 figures a month and looking to get to 7, those conversations are going to be completely different. And what you need to do to make those things happen are going to be somewhat different. Nuances will be the same, but essentially things are going to be different. If that's something that you're interested in, if you're looking for a proven system that you can use that generates clients, that generates customers on the front end at break even, or better in much cases, but like we said, we recommend break even. You can go to learnfromtodd.com and book a strategy session with one of our E5 strategists, and they will walk you through how you can get started with the E5 method. We will share exactly how we're helping our current clients and customers do this, and we will share an opportunity where you can actually get Todd's help over the next 8 to 10 weeks in building out your own E5 campaign. So, and like David mentioned, it's a no pressure, no stress at all call. David has gone through the process himself, and he'll tell you we hate that obnoxious sales pitch and that hardcore selling. It's not what we do. It's just not built into our DNA. I mean, I hate selling. Todd hates selling. Or like, and like we use our value to sell. I mean, we don't. For when people get it and when people see it, we don't need to sell them. And it's as simple as that. So go back to your David question. What about 90-second EBM explainer videos? Absolutely, they could be perfect to test out on both, say, YouTube and Facebook. And like one thing I want to do in the next couple of weeks, maybe next week we'll dive into the Facebook side of things, Facebook structuring and Facebook campaign structuring. And then after that we could do a YouTube thing if people are interested in. But essentially, like you mentioned, a 90-second EBM content could be fantastic. And the thing is, you can, like, there's so much more that you could do when you start to warm up those audiences, and like you will build a custom audience, you will build an audience, and you can start to do lookalike audiences on those. And essentially, you're just you're warming up people to the possibility. And the analogy, I can't remember who first came up with it, but the analogy that I always like to use, and I can't remember who it was, but it's essentially what we're doing. And before I say this, don't get me wrong, you can go out there and acquire customers without warming them up. And people who say you can't, you can. You simply can. Is it easier or is it harder to do one or the other? And that really depends on you and your offer. I mean, if you have an insane offer and you have it dialed into the max, you can acquire customers on the front end, no problem, without having to warm them up. If maybe your offer, like a continuity program, it is a little bit of a harder decision to make, or not a harder decision, it's a little bit more of a commitment than, say, investing in, say, a front-end offer that maybe costs, say, $29, $59, or $70 just one time. When they're making the decision, they're thinking about, oh, this is every month. And so their cogs are turning in their brain a little bit. So, but it's still absolutely doable. It's still 100% doable. But it just may take a certain different level of thinking and a different level of implementation. But when it comes to warming up your audiences first, the good thing about video is that, one, it's obviously engaging, and if you're doing explainer videos, you could make them really rock the house, and you can make them really compelling, make them exciting. You can add a little bit of music, and you can make it a whole experience versus just a blog post. Now, again, blog posts work fantastically as well, but the thing with video, you can keep them on the platform, and the platform owners, Facebook and Google, love this. Yes, you can do instant articles with blog posts, and they work quite well, but the thing with video is that it's super engaging right now, and we can build up audiences of people who have seen a certain percentage of our content and then retarget them with our offer. And David, if you want to send us over, maybe post it in the group, in the MFA Nation group, and ask for asking for feedback on your explainer video, we could definitely do a deep dive on that. Emilio, you rock, John. I'll remember you from SBS 2019 Krakow even better. Oh, Emilio, thank you so much for saying that. Jesus, that's just over a year now. I mean, that was a fun time in Poland, absolutely. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. That's really, really cool. Fun times in Poland. That was a crazy weekend. Speaking, and then there was one or two too many beers after that. That's for sure. So if this was valuable, and you're excited about what we talked about, and it's something that you feel you want to implement in your business, you can head on over to learnfromtodd.com. Like I said, book an E5 strategy session with one of our strategists. Our calendars do fill up quite fast, so make sure you go over there now if you're interested in. And like what I want to say just to close off is that, just to recap what we've talked about acquisition, the acquisition aggression, it is a shift that a lot of people may have not considered before, but when you make this shift, when you realize that you don't have to make profit on the front end to have a successful business. In fact, the most successful businesses don't make profit on the front end. In fact, the most successful businesses are willing to go out of pocket on the front end because they know the money is in the back end. And in our game, in the direct response game, in your online digital marketing game, when you're acquiring customers online, the profit is in the back end. It's as simple as that. And like I mentioned, if you wanted to get full access to that training where Todd walks you through all 3 levels and how to actually implement it in a way that just works like crazy, you can join our MFA Nation group, which is facebook.com/groups/MFA Nation. And you can join the group there, and there's going to be details and there's going to be an announcement in that Facebook page where you can get access to the full training in full. The group is free to join. It's full of value. There's some really sharp people in there, David being one of them. There's a lot of really cool people in there. Todd posts value in there every single week. I mean, some of the value that Todd posts in there is absolutely crazy. And so make sure you join the group, get access to the full training. But I'll leave you with this. One last thing I want to say is that be willing to spend, if you're willing to spend more than your competitors are willing to spend to acquire a client or a customer, all other things being equal, I mean, you're going to win the game. Even if your marketing is a little bit subpar than theirs are, but you're willing to spend more, you're going to win. Because he who spends the most, like Rich Sheffrin said, I can't remember, I came across him saying that in many moons ago. And he was right back then, and he's right today. He who spends the most wins. So be willing to spend more to acquire a customer. At least be willing to spend the same amount as you generate on day 0. Simple as that. Thanks so much for watching. If you want more from us, if you want more from Todd, if you would actually like Todd's help in building out an E5 campaign that allows you to acquire more clients, acquire more customers every single day like clockwork, head on over to learnfromtodd.com, book your E5 strategy session, and then if it's a fit, if it's suitable, if it's something that we feel that you're right for and you feel that you're right for as well, we'll have a discussion how you can get Todd's help over 8 to 10 weeks in our E5 Acquisition Accelerator. My name is John Mullery. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, from all of us here at MFA, thank you so much.
Yes, we teach marketing, but what we really do is change lives. That's the business we're really in. We just happen to do it through marketing education.
Like, you know, people ask me all the time, they say, well, why don't you just go out and sell some widget, man? Like, and look, I can, there's no doubt. But what excites me more is to know that I get the good fortune. I'm blessed to just be able to give to other people what it is that I've learned and watch their lives change.
right? We communicate with real people every day, with real dreams, real families, real fears, real needs. Or when somebody posts a picture online of something that they just bought their spouse, a MacBook Pro, or even cars, or we see somebody that is moving into a new home, or maybe their first home that they've never owned before. And I just know, man, that we're changing lives. There's just something, man, about seeing other people soar that juices me up.